Hi, everyone. Dr. Irene. I just wanted to see how everyone is feeling and talk about how we can get our health back in line. Okay, so I know that our immune system is a big thing right now, especially with COVID and people trying to get healthier during this time. We are going into flu season and all those fun things that are coming along with the seasons coming ahead. So, how can we stay healthy during this time? So, the number one thing is I know that a lot of people say, you know what, Irene, I love food. I get it. I love food too. But the point is that a lot of our food has a lot of preservatives, has, antibiotics. It has so many things in there that can cause us to always be hungry. Number one. Number two, it's not good for us. So we know that. And we also know that it causes obesity and it can cause other inflammation in our body. So, how can we stop that process? Number one, try to stop going to fast food restaurants and fast food all the time. So, I know that a lot of us say, I can't afford to buy healthy foods, it's very expensive. It can be, but it really is not. If you think about all the money and if you do a chart, how much you spend on going out to eat or going to fast food, which is really not cheap anymore, just think about the garbage, unfortunately, the food that you're spending the money on. So let's think about how can we start having fruits and vegetables better choices in our life. Okay, so that's like the first thing. We know that those things will cause us inflammation. And so the number one thing I suggest you do, so there's 4 steps to getting healthier. And I know that there is a lot more, but let's just make it basic for right now. And I'll make more videos in the future on discussing more detail. Okay, so the first thing I think we need to start doing is doing a food sensitivity test. So you can go online and you can actually do it yourself. I'm going to add the link so that you can go to a website that I personally went to, and you can go to this website and order your kit. You do a blood test, you send it in, they give you the results, and they tell you what you are, your body just doesn't really agree upon, right? So or you can just go straight to a doctor and let them do a test for you. So either way, whatever you feel most comfortable with, the test is not that expensive. I mean, it could be. I think it's like 150. But if you think about it, even with insurance, and when you get your lab test for that, it might end up being the same. So, but if you feel more comfortable with a doctor telling you your results, then that's the way to go. You know, whatever you feel comfortable with. But the number one thing is figuring out what causes your body to get out of whack. Okay, so what I mean by that is you get inflamed, you start feeling sluggish, and your body just is trying to help you fight off whatever it is. It thinks that it's this foreign body coming into your body, and that's why people get sick. So, how can we decrease our inflammation in our body? Okay, so that's the number one thing. We have to figure out what's wrong. Every individual is different. I'll let you know though, but especially with gluten, I know people will think I'm crazy, but that is like the number one thing. I think everybody is has some type of sensitivity to it, especially here in America. We put so many preservatives in our flour and it causes inflammation in our bodies. So that's the first thing. But you know, I have a friend that is allergic to chicken. The question is it chicken from the store or is it because of the antibiotics? What is causing those sensitivities? That would be a whole nother subject that I will bring to you guys another day. There's just so much to discuss, but I first want to make sure we're covering what's important for our immune system today. Okay, so go ahead and get that test. It's really important to figure out what your body is not liking and how can we protect ourselves from getting better, right? So how can we get better? So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The next thing is, our microbes in our stomach. So in our stomach, we have what are called microbes, and those microbes are bacteria that help us fight off infections, And, that is the biggest thing right now. A lot of times people don't understand the amount of importance of these microbes. So the microbes in our gut is also linked to our brains. So it is called a gut brain axis. So it's going back and forth. So a perfect example of this is, let's say something's not right and you're like, oh my gosh, I have that gut feeling something is not right, right? So what do? Your brain has told yourself, and you guys are interacting with one another, letting each other know that this is just not a right situation. So there's just an example of how that all correlates. Okay. So, that brings me to a really good next feed into that. So, our brain, when we're talking about our brain, what we think is what we get. Okay. So, I'm going to talk about positive thinking and how emotional eating can affect us in our diet. So, I know that we're all stressed, we have a lot going on, especially in our life right now. Like, I think there's so much exposure to technology. Everybody's hustling, bustling, trying to be the best that they can. And it's just really challenging right now. So, how can we fix that process? A lot of times we go to certain foods because we had a really bad day. So I'm like, oh, you know what? I had a bad day. I'm just going to have this cookie just because I had a bad day and I deserve it. Right. But we have to think back, where does that cookie sensation come from? Okay. So I always say to myself, what really happens is that our brain is associated with something else. So that cookie that you may think is your relaxation and your craving, it can also regulate to being, let's say, your grandma, okay, or somebody that you loved baked cookies all the time for you as a kid. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best day ever. She's amazing. I feel so loved, right? So every time you have that cookie or you smell cookies, you might associate this endorphin feeling of, wow, I feel loved. I feel so relaxed. I feel in peace. The reality is that that cookie is correlated to your grandma baking that cookie. So, food has correlations to people and your thoughts. So if you can figure out what caused you to have that, then you can figure out, okay, well, you know what? I love my grandma. She made me incredible food, but I'm going to have to stop eating the cookie and have memories in a different way. Okay. Produce endorphins in a different way. So that is kind of why people go ahead and eat certain foods, because they are trying to figure out what's the best option during this really terrible day that they figured they had. Okay. So that's another thing that we have to talk about, which I'm going to make another video about how to break those habits. But if we know that we can positively think through that process of how to fix that, then you can know you won't ruin not your diet, but your lifestyle of eating. Okay, so that's like the first thing. And so the fourth thing I would like to say is supplements, right? Supplements are huge and very important for us to keep our immune system healthy as well. So, we know that we have to take vitamin D, which is huge, especially during this time. I know a lot of us say, well, I need to get tested. I agree. A lot of you need to be tested just to see where you're at. But majority of us are lacking vitamin D. So, even just taking your supplements of your multivitamin may not be enough. So you need to add more vitamin D into your system. And that vitamin D is huge because it's going to help your immune system build. Okay, so there's also some supplements that helped me. I talked about microbes, right, and how important that is. And we're going to talk more about that. And a lot of you may still be confused about what those are. But the main thing here is understanding how to keep our gut healthy. And by doing that, utilize Plexus. It's a supplement brand, and it's called Immunity, is the actual supplement that can help you during this time. Okay, so there's just so much going on, and we just need to figure out how can we stay healthy. And so these are just a few ideas of food for thought of how to get started. Okay, and then I'll start explaining more in detail about how to physically get this going. So, my friends, listen, everybody out there, there's somebody that loves you. Okay, so if you know to be healthy is important, you don't want to be on your deathbed wishing you made the right choices of saying, you know what, I should have done something better. I should have eaten better, right? So, how can we make those choices? Somebody out there loves you, and you don't want them to be crying beside your bed on that terrible day saying, gosh, mom, I really wish you made those better choices, right? I know that's really impactful. And that's my whole point. We really need to think about how can we make it better? I know a lot of us think of the present, and I think it's very important to think about the present moment. I think it's great when you're dealing with like a loved ones and you want to focus on them at that present moment, right? But you also have to think about the future and what that entails and how your health will affect that. Okay, so, correlating gut health is a perfect example of understanding. If you understand how important gut health is, you will understand it's actually more important than your personal genes. Yes, I said that. So people thought, my dad had dementia. And I thought to myself, gosh, I pray I don't get dementia. And there is a way that we can, am I more susceptible to it? Absolutely. Does it mean I'm destined for it? No. Because if I get my gut health under control, it will help me with not getting autoimmune disease, diabetes, and so much other diseases that are out there that so many people don't realize it's all affected by your gut and your thought process. If you believe that you're going to have that, unfortunately, you end up getting it. So let's work together in figuring out how to, break the cycle. Break the cycle is what I call it a curse, you know? Let's figure out how to break that cycle and get on the healthy path. So everyone, get some sleep, eat healthy, and stay focused on your goals, okay? So thank you very much for listening today. I hope this helped, and I wish all of you the best and stay healthy.